Welcome to the All Out Leadership Podcast, hosted by Pastor Eric Lawson, where each episode is uniquely designed to help you live all out by bringing you practical leadership from a biblical perspective delivered in 10 minutes or less. So whether you're a business leader, serving in ministry, or simply looking to grow in your leadership, this podcast is for you. Before we dive into this week's topic, make sure to subscribe to the podcast and download the show notes at ericlawson.com/podcast. And while you're at it, feel free to share the content on social media. Now, let's join Pastor Eric for this week's conversation.
Welcome to another edition of the All Out Leadership Podcast. We're going to go ahead and take a break on leadership from the life of David. We're going to come back to that, but I wanted to go ahead and just take a little bit of a breather and try something new for my own ADD and probably for your ADD. And we're going to look at leadership from Jesus, the greatest leader of all times, because he's God and he's perfect. And so we're going to look at the perfect leader. And we're going to look at how Jesus dealt with the specific disease that is plaguing our culture today, and that is FOMO, the fear of missing out. It's not a new disease. It's just a rampant disease more than ever in our culture. We can thank social media for that. But the fear of missing out. And this causes so many people to get paralyzed in organizations because I don't know everything that's going on. And, I used to know, and now I'm not in the loop. And people get paralyzed because of FOMO. In fact, statistics say 60% of people make purchases because of FOMO, usually within a 24-hour period. Now, I find this not an accident or coincidence. 56% of people who experience FOMO are between the ages of 18 and 30. The greatest epidemic of FOMO is in the younger generation, and I think a lot of it has to do with it's a social media generation. You were born into the social media age. Many of us older listeners, although I'm not old, I still look very young and I have a young heart, social media wasn't around when I was a kid. And the reality was this: we didn't know much of anything, and it was great. And the reality was, like the Matrix said, ignorance can be bliss. But social media has really created a sense of FOMO, and it bleeds into our organizations. It bleeds into our leadership culture, and many people get paralyzed. Jesus had this problem too, and we're going to learn how he dealt with it. Matthew chapter 4, verse 18. As Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. "Come, follow me," Jesus said, "and I will send you out to fish for people." At once they left their nets and followed him. Now, I find this very fascinating, all the things Jesus did not tell them. Number one, when Jesus recruits you as a leader, there's going to be details you don't have. A leader that leads like Jesus will be leading without giving all the details that everybody wants. There is a healthy time to communicate. There's a healthy amount to communicate. But if you're a leader, you don't have to communicate everything that everybody wants to satisfy some insatiable thing that will never be satisfied. And as leaders, we often get bogged down because we're allowing FOMO to dictate our schedules. We're allowing FOMO to dictate how we lead our organizations. Again, there's appropriate communication. There's the right time, the right channels. But Jesus was perfect, and he didn't give everybody everything that they wanted. In fact, let's go ahead and look at everything Jesus pretty much left out of his recruiting pitch, all right? There was a big storm in the Sea of Galilee that threatened to drown him. He left that out of the whole pitch there. By the way, Peter, I'm going to say to you, "Get thee behind me, Satan. I'm going to rebuke you a bunch of times. You're going to deny me, and you're going to chop some guy's ear off. And you know what? You're going to die on a cross upside down. Come follow me." He didn't talk about salary reviews. He didn't talk about benefit packages. He didn't talk about performance reviews, 360s, health insurance benefits, nothing. He just goes, "Hey, we're going to catch people. Let's go." I mean, try to recruit somebody for a job in today's world with that. Like, my gosh, number one, everybody coming in at 21 years old wants the salary of the people that are 40 years old, and they haven't even worked a day in their life. Because I read a magazine and I got a blog living in my mom's basement, I should be making $100,000 a year. Hey, suck it up, get over it, get to reality. That's not how life works, man. Or I know this, you've never led a company, never led a business. Okay, I'm obviously ranting here. Pent up frustration, but every CEO out there is going, "Pastor, amen, that is so good. Thank you. Preach it, bring it." If you're the person I just offended, suck it up, get over it, because you wouldn't have liked Jesus' leadership as well. All right. Okay. So let me just put this into some practical terms, how we even deal with this as a church, because a lot of times when you're a smaller organization, when I had 15 staff, every staff member knew what was going on. Every staff member knew what we were doing. Then you go to 30 staff and it's like, hey, not everybody knows everything. We're at 50 plus staff. Not everybody knows everything. And so people who were in the know, who are no longer in the know, they have to manage their heart on that. So if you're listening and that's you, and you're a part of an organization where you used to know everything, but now that organization is growing and now you don't know everything, it's your job to manage your heart. God's not going to do that for you. You have to do that. And we're going to learn from the disciples a lot of different opportunities that they had to manage in the leadership style and culture of how Jesus led. Remember, when a body grows, and a healthy body grows, the foot gets farther from the mouth. The foot gets farther from the hand. As your organization grows, different parts of the organization's body get farther from the rest of the body, which means there's going to be some distance. You're going to have not be in the loop on every little thing. And that's what I have found inside of our church. As our church has grown, some people have struggled with the fact that, well, I don't know everybody. 80% of churches in the United States are 75 people or less. There's 400,000 churches in the United States, 75 or less in attendance. 80% of them are that. Why? FOMO is one of the number one reasons churches won't grow, and it's this. Everybody believes they have to know everybody, or it's not a good church. There is no biblical commandment that says know everybody. The biblical commandment is to love everybody you know. And so love everybody that you encounter, but there is no commandment that says you have to know everybody inside of your church. It's not even possible. And there's billions of people in heaven. So, if you don't like big, you're going to have a shock when you get there. Something I find funny. I just want to share it with you because you might find it funny too, unless this was you. When we were 2 services, we went to add a 3rd service, and the best time to do it was a Saturday night service. I had a family come up to me and go, Pastor, we're leaving the church. And I go, well, why would you be leaving the church? I mean, is there something wrong with my preaching? Oh, no, the preaching's great. I mean, like, are you not getting spiritually fed? Oh, it's so good. We get fed, Pastor. You're teaching the Bible. I go, well, why? Did we hurt you? Did we disappoint you? Oh, no, it's great. I go, why are you leaving? Well, because you're adding Saturday night service, we won't get to know everybody, and so we're leaving. They literally left because we added a service. Like, okay. And I just let them go. I'm not going to chase that. Some things you just can't fix, and Jesus didn't chase some people either. Mark chapter 7, verse 15. Jesus again called the crowd to him and said, listen to me, everyone and understand this. Nothing outside a person can defile them by going into them. Rather, it's what comes out of a person that defiles them. And after he had left the crowd and entered the house, his disciples asked him about this parable. There are going to be some things that your leader says that you won't understand. There were a lot of things inside of Jesus's teachings that the crowd at that time did not understand. Jesus one time says, unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no part of me. 5,000 people left. And what's interesting, Jesus didn't go, hang on, guys, hang on. Let me clarify. Let me give an addendum to the memo. I'm talking about communion, the holy sacrament of communion. You're going to love this. Catholics are going to love this for years to come. Just that's what I was talking about. He didn't even clarify. He let the 5,000 people walk away. Then he turned to the rest of the guys and go, hey, how about you? You want to go too? Peter? Come on. Like, he didn't even clarify it. Look, it's not right and fair to expect your boss, your leader, to give you every little detail that you think you need, because just sometimes they're not going to. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. We actually have a whole podcast on FOMO as to why God doesn't tell us everything and why your leader might not as well. What the disciples did do right is they came to Jesus. We see at the end of verse 18, and after he left the crowd and entered the house, his disciples came and asked him about this parable. Look, there's going to be content you don't understand. There might be something in a memo that didn't give you all the details that you needed. There might have been a staff meeting where you felt something was left out that you need to know. Just know there will be things you don't understand, but just be like the disciples, follow up and ask questions. Your leader does not know what you don't know. okay, all the time. Your leader doesn't know where maybe those gaps are in your understanding. Maybe there is information you need to be able to do your job. Maybe there's things that are details that are lacking. It's your job to go to your leader and ask that information. Too many people have sat around going, man, my boss doesn't care about me. They didn't tell me this. And Satan will use those little things to plant seeds of discord and seeds of doubt. And I've seen people literally just get bittered and poisoned because it was something as simple as they didn't go ask questions and get clarity. Instead, they just got frustrated and bitter, and they ultimately were unsalvageable. Here we see Mark 7, verse 18 and 19. We're continuing. We see Jesus reply to them. He goes, "Are you so dull?" Wow, that's a pretty direct statement, Jesus. Your disciples didn't know, and they just wanted clarity. And Jesus, he sweet, kind, precious moments, Jesus said, "Hey, are you so dull? Don't you see that nothing that enters a person from the outside can defile them? For it doesn't go into their heart, but into their stomach, and then out of the body." In saying this, Jesus declared all foods clean. So just look, go to your leader, ask, but hey, also be prepared that your leader might communicate in a way that was like, hey, don't you get it by now? You've been on staff how many years? How many times have you, So just know, it's good to ask, but also give your leader margin to be human, to be a leader, to be able to say, I might not just package this in a private conversation as sweet and kind, as gentle as you want. Mark chapter 7, verse 20. And then he went on. And so he went on. What comes out of a person is what defiles them. So you know what? Jesus went on. Number 4, be open when your boss goes on and on and on and on and on and on. Why? Because there's just going to be times your boss, like Jesus, will continue to go on and give you more than you asked for. Now, don't let that be a hindrance to you asking, but just be prepared. Your leader might go on and on about certain things. So here's the right response. If your leader goes on and on about something, or they keep going on and on about the same thing, ask yourself why. Why does my leader feel the need to keep bringing this up? Why do they feel the need to keep talking about this? Let me just go ahead and dispel a myth that you might have. Your leader's not going on and on because they love to hear themselves talk. No, they have way more important things to do than go on and on. They have other meetings to go on and on at. They have other problems to solve. The reason they're going on and on and on and on and on is because they feel you haven't yet gotten it. So here's the best way to stop your leader and help your leader be at ease to feel that they don't have to keep going on and on. It's called active listening. So when your leader shares with you, what they're really looking for is, did you get it? So here's how you help them. You know what, boss? So-and-so, here's what I think I hear you saying. Then repeat what you think they're trying to get across, what you think that they're saying, and then just go, did I get that? I have one of my executive staff members. They've really perfected this. They didn't used to do it, but now they've just learned, because I go on and on and on. They've learned I'll be in halfway through something, correcting something. They'll go, okay, now, Pastor, what I think I hear you saying is, they'll get up on the whiteboard, they'll draw it out because they know I'm visual. They'll spell it out, and I'll go, yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. And you know what? Conversation's over. We move on after about another minute or two. All right, we look forward to seeing you next week as we continue leadership lessons from Jesus on dealing with the disease of FOMO.
Thank you for joining us on the All Out Leadership Podcast. We hope you gained new biblical insight that challenged you to grow in your leadership. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, we would love your help in getting the content out farther. You can help by subscribing to the podcast at ericlawson.com/podcast and telling others about it. Next week, Pastor Eric will be back with another episode. So until then, we hope you have a great week being an all-out leader.